All right. Welcome everybody. We are live. We'll get started here in just a minute. I know we had over 200 schools registered for today, so we're gonna have a packed house and want to make sure everybody gets in. So we'll officially start here in about a minute or so to let everybody get in. As you're coming in, let me go through some housekeeping items, some logistics, and I may repeat myself and say this a second time as everybody officially gets in. But with all of our webinars. So again, these Thursday webinars, they're going to be happening for the most part every single Thursday at 1 o'clock Eastern. It's a part of our Independent School Leadership Forum, and we're going to be hosting a variety of topics, and they're all going to be recorded. So point is, they're going to be recorded. If you're on here live, you will get the recording about 24 hours after. So that's when Zoom sends it out. And again, always register. We're going to have these sessions each week, so if you're watching this as a recording, or if you can't make it some week, make sure you continue to register so that you get those recordings. And if any sort of slide decks or resources need to be sent out, we will send those out as well. As we're going through today's session, certainly there's going to be time for Q&A. So in Zoom here, you'll see at the bottom of your screen there should be a little icon for Q&A. If you can use that Q&A box. There's the chat feature, but if we can keep everything organized in the Q&A, especially with so many schools on here, so many folks on here, that'll help keep things organized. And then lastly, we had a lot of people, which we really appreciate, take about 20 seconds after this webinar to fill out our post-webinar survey. Again, we want these to be as valuable as possible. So when you finish the session, the survey is going to pop up. If you can let us know what you liked, what you want more of, ask you a few questions if you need any help, whether it's with consulting or software. If we can get you some more resources and more information, we want to make sure we get that in your hands as well. So those are some housekeeping items. Looks like we're at 1:03 Eastern here, so why don't we get rolling? I'll be mercifully brief with my intros here and jump into the good stuff. But I'll just share, real quick, especially towards the end today. I'll share an exciting announcement now for anybody that was on live last week. You may have heard this, but it's especially relevant if you're a Montessori school leader. So, my name is Clint Losh, and I'm filling in for Tim Selden today. Could be with us for today's session, but I'm the founder of a company called Ames, which stands for Admissions Inquiry Marketing Software. It's all-in-one marketing and admissions software. I only bring that up because, over the past year, I've had the privilege of working closely with Tim, with the foundation, and with Rob and Kelly here from Montessori Compass. So as many of you are familiar with Montessori Compass, it's one of the best platforms out there when it comes to classroom management, parent communication, and observation. So together, we put together a whole Montessori growth suite that will help you manage the whole process from your marketing and advertising to admissions, billing, and the classroom. And specifically today, as we're diving deep into observation and reflection, and Cheryl, who I'm going to introduce here in a second, is going to take us through really great strategies for how to help our teachers observe in the classroom. Those best practices certainly have been reflected inside the Montessori Compass and the Montessori Growth Suite platform. So when we get to the end, if you want to stay an extra few minutes, we'll show you how the software is going to help you do that. And then if you want some more information, you want a demo, use that post-webinar survey to just check the box and say, yep, I would love some more information. I want to schedule a demo, and we can take you through in more detail. All right. Now with that being said, let's dive in and officially introduce Cheryl. So Cheryl, thanks for joining us today. Appreciate you taking the time. We're honored to be joined by Cheryl Allen. She's a Montessori coach, conference presenter, over 15 years of experience guiding 3 to 6 classrooms, lower and upper elementary classrooms. Currently pursuing her doctorate in Montessori Studies, and recently delivered a TEDx talk titled "What If We All Thought Like Maria Montessori?" So Cheryl, again, thanks. Thank you so much for taking your time and joining us. And look, we're going to turn it over to you. And like I said, I'll be turning my video off. If anybody has any questions, I'll be monitoring that. But Cheryl, thank you, and take it away.
Thanks, Clint. I'm happy to be here. I'm so happy to be here with Rob, who we were just talking about how long we have known each other and how long I've been calling him up and making suggestions for things that should be in Montessori Compass. So I'm really excited to see the new Montessori Compass and some of the things that I have been able to do in it. But today I'm going to talk about observation and reflection. And as we know, it's the backbone of Montessori, and it might be the hardest thing to make time to do. I talk about observation as being like TSA. It's a pain when you get to the airport and you have to go through security, and like you just don't want to do that. It would be so much faster to travel without it. And if something goes wrong, that's our first line of understanding, of knowing what happened. Is the same with observation. If everything is going great, it doesn't feel like you want to take the time to do it. If everything's not going great, it doesn't feel like you can take the time to do it. And the answer for anything that happens in both of those situations is looking for what happened before. So that observation and reflection. You can go ahead, Kelly, to the next slide. Or really the first slide. So we all know that observation is a struggle. We have lots of things that we are expected to do. Lesson planning. I could go through with each of these. In fact, I will. Like that reflection makes lesson planning a lot easier. You can see if one student has mastered something faster than maybe the small group that they were presented with. That lets you know to present a new lesson to that student with another group or individually. And you may not have known if you had just presented to the same group that they were with, they might have been bored. None of us behave at our best when we're bored. And we want students to behave at their best when they're in a lesson. Record keeping. I was just talking to my teachers about how, like, they were like, we just don't go back and put mastery. We forget. So that observation really lets you go back and put mastery because you've observed that they mastered. And that's one of the things you need to think about when you're record keeping. Record keeping feels like a burden. I'm a big fan of do it twice a week. Like take notes through the week and then do record keeping twice a week. If you're not a person who feels like the computer can be right there in your class, so you can mark things on it, but both react really well. And then the one that doesn't, the one that everybody complains about, even though they don't know they're complaining about this, when you wait until the end of the quarter or the end of the semester, progress reports are there. Like progress reports take 10 hours. Not really. It's just that if you haven't been keeping up, they do. So we need to prioritize observation and reflection in our daily practice. Making a big deal of daily because it really has to be. I know a lot of people on this webinar are school leaders. So as a school leader, how do you support that? Because honestly, teachers worry about you coming in the classroom and seeing them sitting in that observation chair and you thinking that they're not doing anything. So one of the first things you can do is assure them you expect that you expect to come in and see them observing sometimes, and then you'll just stand and observe too. That you don't need to interrupt their observation. You don't need to have them jump up and do something. A really simple thing you can do is make sure that they have a place to sit and observe. If there's an adult-sized chair, then students automatically know or are taught and remember to not interrupt the teacher when they're observing, when they're in that chair. We call it the observation chair because we're super creative. But that's a really important thing. And that's something those two things are easy for leaders to do. You can go ahead, Kelly, to the next thing. What does an observation cycle look like? Because people say, like, I don't know what to do when I'm sitting there. I'm in the observation chair. What do I do? And there's a little more to it than just there. So the first thing you're going to do, or you're going to let your teachers know they should do, is they're going to present or connect with a student, and then they're going to circulate around the room. The reason you do that is you interrupt some problems that may arise just by being nearby. So you're kind of looking for, is there anything that I need to deal with before I sit to observe? So you're going to do quick circulating the room and then sit down and observe. It's really important to step back. If you're not a person who likes to sit, then have a scarf, have a necklace, something, a hat, something that lets students know you're observing, and stand to observe. But that act of stepping back lets you see the whole room, not just one part when and we're all aware of what's going on all the time, scanning while we're giving a lesson, while we're talking to somebody. But this is a different action. By stepping back, we can get a better understanding of what's happening. So then we want to observe. Again, people often don't know what to look for. Dr. Montessori often talked about objective observations. I would argue that we can never be objective. We're seen through our own lens. So acknowledging that is part of your social justice work in your observation, and working to remove your lens is a lifelong work, probably. So when you observe, you can record what you see. Who's working with whom? Where are they working? Like, just what's going on in the class? Is it loud? Is it noisy? Is it really quiet? Are people showing a lot of focus, or lots of people moving around? If you don't know what to do, what to observe, it's kind of like anything else. Just start writing. So just start writing what's happening in the room. You can observe with a particular lens, and I'll talk about this a little bit more, but really look, when I'm having a bad day, I go into classrooms and I purposely observe for joy. I want to see other kids being happy, and it helps me get out of whatever funk I'm in. So you can do that. You can do the same thing. You might want to observe an individual student. You have a parent conference coming up. You want to bring the child to other people to talk about, to maybe your child's study. So you can observe an individual child or a group. Then this is the part that always gets forgotten. We take our notes, and then hopefully you didn't take them on an individual piece of paper, because that piece of paper gets lost. Maybe you took them in a notebook. So really cool thing about the new Montessori Compass is you can take notes right in there. And then every child that you talk about in your notes, you can tag, and then you go back and you can see the notes when you look at that one child. I think it's the coolest thing. I think Rob didn't mean for it to be used that way, but as a teacher, it's so exciting. So you need to go back and look at them. You need to talk about them with your teacher, with the other adult in your classroom. You need to look at them with a mentor, or just look at them yourself, going back to see what's been happening. If a child starts to struggle with something, go back to your observation notes. Maybe they didn't really master something that you thought they mastered, and you had noticed they were having trouble. It'll tell you where to start to solve that problem. Dr. Montessori told us to observe little children, observe them anywhere you can. I would say observe anybody. Observe everybody, whether you teach little children or big children, or you work with adults. It's important to observe them all. Um, I want to talk a little bit more about specific ways to specific things to observe for. But Rob, was there anything you wanted to add then, or do you want to look at that observation that you can do?
Yeah, hey, thanks, Cheryl. Sure, Kelly, if you want to maybe open up Montessori Compass and maybe give an example of some of the things that Cheryl's been talking about regarding the observations, and just tell, with this new system, we've been working on this for 3 years. We launched back in 2012, and so we've been in Montessori for quite a number of years now, and we're really excited to launch this brand new version of Montessori Compass. We call it Montessori Compass 2.0. It's very aptly named. And we're excited to partner with Clint's organization too to bring in the Montessori Growth Suite, which is a full suite of features for both administrative and classroom. But in terms of the classroom and what pertains to this particular session, we make it real easy for you to get your information into the system using what we call the quick ads. That big yellow button right at the top, it's on every single page. And Kelly will sort of demonstrate here whether you want to plan for the future, you want to plan what you're doing tomorrow or next week or next month or whatever, or record something in real time as in terms of a classroom activity that's happening, in the moment. You have the ability to share with parents or to just keep everything private. There's a little switch. You can toggle that back and forth. So when it's yellow, you can see, hey, this is something that you're going to be sharing with the parents via our mobile app. And if it's not yellow, then you know that's something that's just between you and your Montessori Compass account. But in terms of the observations, this is where you would go ahead and record observations. You could add a photo. And a kind of a pro tip, if you're using an iPad in the classroom, like a lot of our users are, is that you can actually just, not only can you do everything that she's doing right now on the iPad, you can take the photo in real time with your iPad or a video as well. That's going to be coming in the next week or so. You'll be able to do photos and video in our system. And so that way you're not just documenting, that the child worked with a specific lesson or material in your classroom. You're actually documenting your observation to go along with it. So it could be something that's relevant to a specific lesson, or it could be something, really anything, something behavioral or some other, interesting anecdote that's happening in the classroom, but you get it all into the system. You can record many at the same time. Kelly, show them how you can for observations. All this is the same sort of interface, so it doesn't really matter what you're recording. It all looks and feels the same. And you'll also notice that there's a note field or an observation field for lessons, which is going to be stuff that's coming out of the Montessori Scope and Sequence, developed in collaboration with the Montessori Foundation, and our trackers, which are the customizable things in the classroom, the naps and the potty training for the younger kids and any other projects. But all of those have observation or note fields that you can have be shared or private and all documented in your Montessori Compass account.
Thank you. And if you see where Kelly is right now with record observation, oh no, she just went away from it, but she was listing students. So for me, when I went in there and I just was typing up what I saw, or then I realized, oh, I saw Rob, I talked about Rob, or I talked about Kelly, then I can put them all in, I can tag them all, even if I'm keeping it private. And then when I'm writing my observation at my narratives for my progress report at the end of the quarter, I can go through and see every observation I've done where I talked about Rob or I talked about Kelly. And so as a teacher, that like makes my observation something that I'm really sharing with the parents in a way that's beneficial to them, or something that I'm really using to grow, because I want this to grow my practice to benefit the students in my class. That's why I do it daily, because
And
I want to be able to look.
just to add one quick thing to what Cheryl's saying about recording observations for groups of students or small groups of students, you can record one observation for many students in the same flow out of convenience. But you'll notice here on this activities page that she's looking at, excuse me, even though I recorded the observation one time, I wrote the observation once, I tagged up multiple children, it's still a one-to-one relationship in our database. So basically that one observation belongs to that one child. So if you did need to go back and edit something or delete something or make some sort of change, if you're running a report on one child or something, you have all of those activities and observations all attached on a singular basis, even if you entered it on a group basis.
It's just so helpful and makes observation what it's supposed to be, because observation is supposed to guide all of our work. Well, if we're not actually doing observation, then guessing is guiding our work. And that's not us at our best, or providing our students with the best. And that's what we always want to do. Kelly, if you want to go back to our slides to the next slide, which is the one that's mostly blue. Yep, this.
Cheryl, before
Yes.
you get started, I just want to hop in with two things. One is I did see a lot of questions come in, which is great. I know a lot of those questions were related to Montessori Compass, whether it could do a few things. I will say, hang with us. We're going to get back into the software here shortly. For anybody who wants to hang and for a few minutes, and we can go through some of the features and answer those questions, we'll do that. And then also, Kelly, I don't know if it's possible. Do you see that extra screen that's on there where it's showing all of our faces? Are you able to minimize? Is that able to minimize? Okay, I guess that'll work. It's weird that the Zoom is showing that. Usually that's hidden. But anyway, there we go. Because some people had mentioned that depending on screen size, it was covering some things. But anyway, Cheryl, back to you. Thank you.
All right, thank you. When we observe, we're going to have some different things that we're doing for observation. Our main goal is to see the child and see the connections, both to other humans in the room, possibly animals in the room, and to work. So that's our overall goal for observation. When we're looking, we may be looking a little more specifically, because again, we can't just write everything down. So we need to focus our work. We're looking at what's happening. So this is clearly what's happening in front of us. And we can just do an observation where we're recording what we see happening. We can focus on connections. Our students, which students are working together, which students stop to talk to each other. In the elementary classroom, those social skills are really important. And so we do want to be paying attention to them. We want to look for work engagement. I mean, this is why we're here, right? For work engagement. So we want to make sure that we're paying attention to it. We want to look for rigor. We like to think that students, that we're just, if we offer what they want, then that's fine. But we really do need to make sure that there's some rigor. So if we see a student doing the same math work over again, that's an important observation where there's maybe lack of rigor if they've already mastered it and they're continuing to do it. And we need to go present a new material to them. For some students, that takes a little bit of encouragement to go from something they're really good at to something they don't really know how to do. But we don't know that it's happening unless we observe. Really fun things to observe where work is happening. Is there a corner of your classroom that's a chat place and the rest of it is a really great workplace? Is there a place that groups are able to have shared focus? Is there a place where people are able to work individually? And although we think about all of this when we set up our classroom, then we have a whole bunch of humans come in who make different decisions than we did. So observation lets us know, is this working the way I wanted it to? If you've ever set up a classroom with a runway, then you know how important that observation is, because you have children running in class and you don't know why. You presented the lesson, and when you notice that they're all running in the same place, you can move some shelves so it's not as inviting there. We want things that we can look for. So this helps really focus our observation. Some of the things that we look for, and you can brainstorm a list. We've done that with our school, and that's really helpful, because when our guides are like, I need to do observation, but I don't know what to look for, they have a whole list of things they can choose. So some of them are looking for growth. Is this student maybe not scoring so well on a state standardized test, but you know they've made so much growth? That's a really great time to look at this. Oh, they're choosing work on their own. In the beginning of the year, they couldn't. So it's a way of honoring all of those things that we see happen that we need as Montessorians to report out to others, because they're they're small. Parents don't always notice the difference of a child who's able to make a choice on their own to from their child 2 months before who wasn't able to make a choice on their own. They notice months later when the child goes and does something on their own, like they're applying that skill, but you get to really think about those growth aspects. I talked about observing for joy. Honestly, there is nothing better if you're in a funk and not having a great day than going into a classroom and saying, okay, I am observing for joy, because I guarantee you, you will find it. And those students might come interrupt you at the end, but they will come to show you things that are just pure joy. So that's one of my favorite things to um, set as homework for teachers, as classwork. If they're feeling down a little bit, like, you go observe for joy. Um, Productive struggle. So this is a hard one. We want students to do exactly what our album says they will. Get a lesson, practice it again, and then master it. And like, it's all magic. And it's so great when that happens. And sometimes they get a lesson, maybe they don't practice it, or they practice it, but they don't get it, or they get stuck on one part and they really try. Do they ask a friend for help? Try a different way, go back in the work that they were doing and start again. All of those things are productive struggle. And as adults, those are things that make us great workers, great humans, able to do what we need to do. So we want to look for that. And then again, this is how we share. We can share with a parent. And as parents, we love hearing stories about how our child persevered when something was hard for them. Can they manage the cycle of work? So the cycle of work is getting something off a shelf, doing the work, checking if they need it to be checked with someone, putting the work away, ready for the next person, and putting it back on the shelf. So if it's knobbed cylinders, cylinder blocks, it means if they need to figure out a way to get all of those pieces, even if they couldn't fit them in all of the holes there. They didn't quite do the work right. They need to figure out a way to make it right. And that doesn't always look like having a teacher fix it. Sometimes with a 3-year-old, it means piling them all up on top and putting them back on the shelf. Not the way we would do it as an adult, but they're getting that cycle of work because they know all the pieces need to go together and be there. Development, social, emotional, cognitive, are they where we expect them to be in regards to development? Are they working as we expect in this plane of development? All of those areas are important for observation, and let us really present good narratives, have great conferences, because this is the information. Parents care a lot less about the fact that their child is doing checkerboard because that they don't really know what that means. And they care a lot about this is where we think that they usually would be in math, doing multi-digit multiplication using the checkerboard. And they've gone from doing single digit to being able to multiply by 3 digits. Sometimes they get stuck when they're combining for their final answer, and they're able to go back and figure out where they got stuck. So being able to share that development, suddenly a parent has a lot more trust in you and really knows that you understand their child. But none of that comes without observation. You can observe an individual student. Is this because you think maybe this student needs a little extra help? Or I'm not sure why this student is struggling. I always say I had a student who would come in my casual observations, walk around the room in circles in the morning, interrupting every student as he went by. And every day I would say, hey, can we not interrupt students? I talked to him about that. And he would say to me, I'm not walking in a circle. I'd say, well, what's going on? I don't know. I'm not walking in a circle. It's like, all right. So this student was on the autism spectrum. So really talking to them and having that information. It's fine. How about if I do a really in-depth observation of you? And he said, okay. So I made plans with my co-teacher so that I could really focus on this one student. And what I noticed is he was walking in a figure 8. I said to him, hey, when you come in the morning, you're walking in the classroom in a figure 8. And as you walk by people, you're distracting them. You're talking to them and distracting them in their work. And he said, oh, why didn't you ever tell me that? I'll stop. And where he'd gotten hung up was I thought he was walking in a circle. So he'd never heard the rest of what I was saying. And for me, what I was saying was the end part was important. So that observation was a huge change for our entire class. You can also observe a small group. Is there a group that always likes to work together? They always hang out, same table, whatever they're doing. You can observe them to see, is that student that you're worried about academically, they're not at the same level as a couple of other students? Like, what's really happening there? How are they adding to the group? Because we may think other people are just helping them out, but usually they help a strength come out for that student. So doing an observation of the small group gives you more information. It helps us, talked about looking through a lens, but it helps us drop our lens that's not helpful and really see what's there so that we can adopt lenses that are helpful and are specific, but we're still not putting our own expectations of what a good student is or how a student should work. We're really able to not fully be objective, but at least be closer towards objective. Oh, that was a lot about those observation types. I knew it would be. the majority of it. I think this is my last slide. So I don't know, Clint, if there are any questions about observation or what makes the most sense to where we want to go for observation in Montessori Compass or just in general.
Yeah, we have a couple questions. First one here. For specific skills focused work such as math, what do you think about the simple introduced, progressing, mastered method?
I think that is great for your recording in whatever recording option you're using. I think when you are doing your observations, you need to think about, like, where are they with practice? Are they able to do the beginning on their own, but they're always asking someone for a question when they get to like step 5? So you want to look for a little more detail so that you know where to help them. And sometimes we just practice for a while.
Okay, great. And again, for everybody that's on here, it's a good time. If you have questions, please just put them in the Q&A box, and we will get to them. Okay, one other question here for you, Cheryl. Obviously, I know we're talking about, with Rob and Kelly with Montessori Compass, but there was a question about, do you have experience with transparent classroom? Do they offer observation sections? Since I see we're mainly using Compass as an example here
Yeah.
in the session.
Yeah, I do have experience with transparent classroom. There is not this, I mean, this is why I was so excited about this ability to be able to just take notes right inside Montessori Compass and have them separated out to the appropriate students for whom I've taken notes, because I haven't seen that anyplace else. So, so that to me is something that's just different here. That is like listening to a teacher.
Okay, great. Cheryl, could this tool be used? Could this be a tool to use in doctoral program as researchers observe Montessori praxis?
I absolutely think it can. I haven't, this is, observation is not my planned area of research for my dissertation. Doesn't mean it isn't for later, because I get to do more than one research after I get my degree. But observation and using these types of things where observation is right within it, you would have a quantitative way to know, is this teacher observing? Because it would be right there. And what do their observations look like? So I think that there is a lot of quantitative opportunity to go along with qualitative, like talking to them. It's in the back of my mind, not fully formed yet, but I think it definitely could be.
Okay, great. Next question for you, Charlotte. Do we have any samples? I'm not, maybe you don't have them right now. If we need to get them later, we can always send them out. But any samples for manual observation sheets?
Oh, yes, I can get some later. My favorite, though, you can just make on your own is kind of like a Cornell note-taking method, where you have about 2/3 of your sheet, you draw a vertical line down it, and then your observations go in the larger side and your questions or ideas go on the smaller right-hand side, so that you're really trying to separate. And then it's easier to analyze and go back to. That is the one that we use most often at our school. And then we just at the top write if we're looking for something specific.
Okay, perfect. I do see other questions here. They're more Montessori Compass related. We can hop into those shortly, but Cheryl, I want to come back to you if there's other slides or if there's anything else you want to make sure we go over.
Yeah, and I think the next slide is about Montessori Compass. I'm pretty sure,
Okay.
Kelly, if you want to check. Oh, yeah.
All right, cool. Well, let's do this, everybody. So again, please, if you're on here, keep firing away with questions. We have a bunch of questions related to Montessori Compass 2.0. So Rob and Kelly will go through or answer those questions and also go through maybe like a mini demo just to show you how observation can be done. But as I mentioned, let me just hop on the screen here. As I mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, when you exit today's session, there's going to be just a quick post-webinar survey. Again, let us know how you liked today, what you found most valuable, what do you want to hear more about here in upcoming sessions as we're hosting these every single Thursday. But also, if you're interested in getting a more detailed demo of Montessori Compass or the Montessori Growth Suite, just check the box, let us know. We can get you more information and schedule a demo. Certainly, if you want any professional development for your team, through the Montessori Foundation, let us know that as well. So if you want to deeper dive into any of this, have somebody either virtually or even come on campus and work with your team. That is done through the Montessori Foundation. So just check the box there if you're interested in that. But with that being said, Rob, Kelly, why don't I toss a couple questions your way that came in as you were initially showing some of the features of Montessori Compass. So, this question that Daniel came from you. I know it's a little bit of a longer question, so I'm going to read this one off, and um, Rob or Kelly, you can answer. So here we go. So in Chile, we provide online Montessori education nationwide, reaching remote areas without schools. We send certified Montessori materials to families and conduct live classes via Google Meet, limited to 3 or 4 hours a day in small groups of up to 11 children. Now, in our 5th year, we use our own software, but are exploring whether Compass would support our model, which includes sending certified study guides and personalized work plans online, while families send us records of their children's progress. We love to know if we'd love to know if you're open to a call, but is that possible? And in their case, so observations are recorded by the family, not just the guide. And even if that's not necessarily possible, would an API be able to be used for that? So unique scenario there, or maybe not as unique, given your experience. But Rob, Kelly,
Yeah.
thoughts on that?
So yeah, thanks, Daniel, for the question. That's definitely a very interesting model, and we'd love to talk to you about that. I think that's really cool what you guys are doing and down there in Chile. I'd be very interested to hear a little bit more about what you're doing and see if there may be a way we can help you out. Just sort of off the top of my head, we are designed, for basically sharing what's happening in the classroom, with parents. In your situation, it sounds like the parents are involved in the classroom, and that would require some modification to the workflow, but definitely doable. You can set up parents as teachers that would be able to help to contribute with the observations and the record keeping. And yeah, I think we just need to better understand what it is you're trying to do, what your workflow is. Our tools are very, very flexible. There's really no one right way to use them. And if there's a way that we can help you out, we'd love to. But let's go ahead and schedule a call and kind of go from there.
Okay, awesome. All right. We have a question about handwritten observation notes. So, can handwritten observation notes be uploaded and transcribed for editing?
As far as handwriting observation notes, we don't have a transcription tool in the system yet. We will probably have something like that in the not too distant future. But there are a variety of third-party tools out there that do that. ChatGPT, I mean, any number of AI type of tools out there can take text that's on an image and convert that into actual text that can be copy and pasted. You can add attachments. So if I say I have a physical observation. I wrote paper and pencil, and I take a photo of that with my phone, I would be able to get that into Montessori Compass as an attachment to a record keeping entry or to an observation or a tracker. And that would be stored in the child's, profile. So yeah, it would become part of it. but it would be treated as an image and not as text. So I would recommend, if you're going to do paper and pencil, it's totally fine. There are many, many free services out there that will make it easy to transcribe that and put it into something you can copy and paste it. Because once it's actual text format in Montessori Compass, you can search, for keywords, and it'll make things a lot easier for you. But if you just need to go ahead and get an image that's an image of a piece of paper, basically into Montessori Compass, you can absolutely do that.
Okay, awesome. Um, does it default? So when you were sharing the screen and you were sharing with parents or not with parents, does it automatically default to sharing with parents?
Kelly, if you can show, yeah, it's right there at the top. You can't miss it. If it's yellow, it's shared, and that you just toggle it either direction, whichever way you want to do it. If you're recording it on the web, we do have a teacher mobile app that's in development. That'll be out before the beginning of the new school year. It'll look very similar to this, but basically, on a mobile app. And you just have to be careful. It's the very first thing you see at the top of every single entry, whether or not it's shared. And then, we recognize there's going to be times where the child's having a great day and there's a really interesting activity going on and you want to share that with the parents. And maybe other times, as Cheryl can attest to, that maybe there's some things that need to be observed and documented, but you don't necessarily want to share that. So it's completely in your hands and your choice on what you want to do each time.
Awesome. Okay. Next question. Can data entered on Compass be stored locally or must it go to the Compass cloud?
It is a cloud-based application. So we store everything with Amazon Web Services. We do have some geographic capabilities where, depending on where your school is located, we can set up servers in different geographic regions around the world, but it would all be cloud-based. It's not something that's going to be you're able to store on your local computer.
Okay, great. We answered that one. Let me keep going. Okay. Does Montessori Compass have templates for observations as described by Cheryl?
Templates, maybe I'll kick that over to Cheryl to see what her thoughts might be on that type of a thing. I mean, Montessori Compass, I can speak to the software side of things. I mean, we're putting the tools in your hands, and how it gets utilized. I'm always sort of interested as a software developer. I love seeing how it gets utilized in creative ways I didn't really think of or maybe intend to always. So. Cheryl, I think you understand kind of how the quick add and how to get data into the system. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I would love to have more conversations with you about it later because I do think that's one of the things I see is that people want more guidance in observation. And so
Sure.
I think that's something that might be able to put in so um, you could just remember what's available to you. It's like any other practice where you need to practice, and sometimes we get in a rut of just doing one thing. We write down what students are doing for work in the classroom, and observation doesn't feel as helpful. So having reminders for ourselves about what are the other ways we can observe. Right now in our classrooms, we have kind of a menu available where I encourage teachers to write down, literally just on a Post-it note, write down 5 ways that you feel comfortable observing, put them on your notebook, and when you aren't sure what to do or you feel like you're not doing a great job observing, look at one of those and switch. So I feel like Rob can do some magic with stuff. We might be able to put some in there.
I mean, I'd love to think about that with you. If there was if you had some sort of, I don't know the right terminology. I'm not coming at this as an educator, but just thinking in terms of a writing prompt of just sort of trying to
Yep.
get the ball rolling in terms of having your mind think about certain topics and all. If you had a list of those types of things, that would certainly be something we'd be able to create some sort of a template. And I mean, quite frankly, with some of the different AI tools and things that are out there that we're going to be planning to put into the system in the future, you could have a natural language type of a chat bot. You
Mhm.
could potentially entering in some observations, and then the chat bot could ask for follow up and kind of maybe help you to think about some other aspects of the overall observation and all. And that would all be coming from Montessori experts like yourself, that would program that type of stuff into there. But that's all definitely within the realm of possibility for sure.
It's a brave
Uh,
new world.
can
It is.
I can I suggest something? Um, just as a quick, immediate solution to that idea, you might consider adding a curriculum category for observation with
Mm.
the different lenses that Cheryl has listed out, growth, joy, all the different, ways to observe your class. And then you can see all your students across the journal. Let me show you as what that would look like. So this might be observations, and then within there, you would see the different lenses that you can observe through. And then you'd be able to see, whether you have observed each child through that lens or not, and get a little bit more of a broader overview of how you've observed your entire class through all these different concepts and ideas that Cheryl was talking about. So that's just one immediate solution that you might implement to using the tools that we currently have right now. So I
Yeah,
just wanted
Kelly,
to
that's
throw that
actually a
out.
fabulous idea, and that
Yeah.
just yeah, I totally blanked out on that during the question, but you're 100% right on that. The scope and sequence that we provide ranges from infant through age 12, was developed along with the foundation, many years ago, and that's just to get you started. You can customize the curriculum any way you see fit. And perhaps, Cheryl, that would be something we could take a look at, having some observations that are structured like the
Right.
curriculum feature, but not used in that way. And they could help you when it comes progress report time to sort of refer back to very more micro type topics, related to observation, that you want to be sure that you capture those moments and that information and then record it in a way that makes it digestible, that you can actually, be able to have access to that in the future when it comes time to putting together a more broad progress report.
I love that. And as a Montessori coach who is talking to our teachers all the time about how are your observations going? What are you doing? This is such a great snapshot for me to say, hey, I noticed that you've only been doing these two types of observations. Like, let's look at something else that you could have a different lens through. So, we talked in the beginning a little bit about, as a leader, how do we encourage observation? Because it can be kind of invisible to leadership. And this is a great way of making that invisible visible and being
Mhm.
able to have a conversation about it that really supports your teachers and encourages observation.
And Kelly, just toggle over while we're looking at it's called the journal, this particular feature, and it just basically lays the scope and sequence out in a kind of a spreadsheet style type of format where you can get that bird's eye view and how children are doing in specific categories. And Kelly, zoom in on one of these. I guess we're looking at art right now, and then you go into the subcategories, and you can kind of view in real time how everyone's doing, and on specific lessons themselves. There's a sister feature called trackers right here where you can view them the same way, whereas the curriculum is structured so that you are actually recording, the actual assessment of the child, and the default being the presented, working, and mastered. The trackers are more free flowing. It's really just sort of a check mark. It's whether, it's meant for naps and potty training and meals and things like that. But I've seen people use it for all kinds of crazy ideas that are super creative and interesting, like, different classroom projects, and just it really could be anything. It's sort of a catch-all for anything that falls outside of curriculum. And this might be another place because of the ability to not just track that you did whatever the thing is, but to have the observation that goes along with it. And it has the sharing mechanism as well. It could be shared or it could be private. So if you were, Cheryl, to create, a list of things that you felt was really important to observe a child as in a specific age group, age 3, we really want to keep track of X, Y, and Z, and age 4, these things you could put those in the actual curriculum feature or the tracker feature. Both allow you to keep track of them and attach them to a student's portfolio, and really most importantly in terms of this particular conversation, to document the actual observation, what it is that you observed during the process. And another sort of a pro tip, if you're using an iPad in the classroom, you would be able to, again, take photos while you're recording the observation. You could also do speech to text as well. I see a lot of people that take advantage of that nowadays. You don't have time to type it out. You could very quickly just say, hey, I observe the child, XYZ, and then that goes and is recorded in the system as well. So lots of different ways to get the information into the system, and very flexible. And would love to learn more, Cheryl, about kind of your thoughts on how we could get some of these ideas into the system, in creative ways.
Yeah, that would be fun.
All right. Look, we still have 3 or 4 more questions. Again, anybody else has additional questions, can keep them coming. These are great. I think this is a good probably time to answer this question, which is how do we try out the new Compass interface without necessarily trying the growth suite? So, one, if you go to MontessoriCompass.com, and I'll put this in the chat, there you can start a trial. You can join a webinar with Kelly to get more of an in-depth demo. If you want to learn more about the growth suite, you'll see that in the menu there, so you can learn more about some of the additional features you can get access to. So yeah, go to MontessoriCompass.com. You can do a trial, do a demo, and take a more in-depth look. All right, so good question. All right, next question. Is there a way to upload our record keeping slash checklist, which follow our classroom flowcharts, so we can simplify the list of lessons shown in the Compass?
Yeah, so the accounts, anytime you set up a new free trial account, which we offer a 30-day free trial, you get the scope and sequence out of the box, again, ranging from infant through age 12, and that is courtesy of the Montessori Foundation. And you can customize this any way you see fit. You can add, subtract, edit. You could completely remove this and upload your own. So if you have your own scope and sequence that that works for your individual school, we can. The short answer is we can make the curriculum part of this look exactly the way you want it to look. It's completely adaptable to meet your specific needs.
Perfect. All right. Does Montessori Compass have a section to show alignment with state standards?
That is, the old system was mapped, this particular scope and sequence is mapped to the US Common Core state standards. In development, we're mapping to a variety of early childhood standards throughout the US and other regions as well. The feature for standards is still in development for 2.0. It's coming. It will be here most likely in advance of the new school year. Irregardless, the good thing about the way the standards functionality works in terms of the software is that it's secondary to the actual Montessori scope and sequence, meaning you as a Montessori guide, you're living in a Montessori, classroom, and you're not thinking about, oh gosh, is it meeting this particular standard? No, you're observing the children through the lens of Montessori, and you're documenting those activities. The standards are mapped behind the scenes, and that can be done retroactively. So meaning, let's say, we had other development priorities over the course of next summer, next couple months, which we have a lot of things we're working on right now. If we weren't able to get the standard feature completed by September, which I'm pretty sure we will, you could go about your time recording a Montessori Compass because you're recording Montessori anyway, Montessori curriculum. And then we can map it behind when the standards became mapped. it would be just something you're reporting upon. You're not like recording that the child did a standard. You're recording that the child worked with a Montessori lesson or material. So the standards part of that is really just sort of like a conversion type of reporting, when you're prompted to do that as a school. So the short answer is it's not in there today. It will be in there. And even if it's not, we'll get it in there one way or the other. And you can start using the Montessori record keeping today. And with knowing full well you will have the standards.
Great. A couple more questions have come in. So I know we're at the hour. So, but we'll hang tight here to answer a few more questions for anyone who wants to hang on. Again, if you have to hop off, totally understand. Again, you'll get the recording when you leave. There's the post webinar survey. Again, let us know what you liked. If you want a demo of Montessori Compass or Montessori Growth Suite, you can just check the box there. If you need some additional training, help, consulting, professional development, that is what Montessori Foundation is fantastic at. So check the box there. We get you some more information, and let's go. We'll go back to the questions here. A few more are coming in, so these are great. For dual language schools, does Compass accommodate other languages, and then other languages such as Chinese?
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to have a translation service that's going to basically, as much as we can in terms of the navigation and the buttons and page titles and things like that with the Montessori Compass. We will have a localization feature that will help to make sure that's in a variety of different languages. I can't make any particular promises on timing. I know that we're trying to get that done over the summer. The larger issue, so that's really not a big deal from a software perspective. The larger issue, quite honestly, would be the Montessori scope and sequence, because that requires more than translation. That requires a Montessorian, someone who understands Montessori. You have to speak both English and the other language, and you need to speak Montessori. Otherwise, you're going to get a lousy translation. So we would need to acquire other scope and sequences from different geographic regions. We're happy to partner with people on that if you have something in mind. So feel free to reach out to us. But absolutely, we recognize that Montessori is in every part of the world, and we do very joyfully work with schools in upwards of 40 or more different countries. So we're very much would like to be able to offer that in a variety of different native languages.
Okay, great. Can a teacher just use voice to record observations?
If you're using Montessori Compass on a tablet or a phone, and you're using it right now, would be the mobile browser. I just tested this the other day using my iPad, and it worked beautifully. So you could just go ahead and just like Kelly, open up the quick add. The way the quick add looks like right here using a web browser, Kelly's using her laptop. It's going to look exactly like this, just a little bit smaller on your phone or your tablet. And the nice thing about using the phone or tablet is you can take the photo or the video in the same flow. Or you could take the photo. Another little pro tip I've seen people use, which I think is pretty cool, is that I think, Cheryl, you said earlier in the presentation, you talked about how I believe you said you recommend sometimes doing record keeping twice a week. Because it's sort of not something maybe everyone wants to have a computer in the classroom or something, and that makes a lot of sense. A lot of people like to document paper and pencil. Um, for record keeping, I don't know if it would help as much with observations, but in terms of observing which lessons children are working on, you could go around the classroom and point and click and take photos of children working with materials. And that's sort of a record keeping bookmark. So you could very quickly see, hey, here's these children are working in these areas, and take those. And maybe they're nice photos that you want to share with the parents. Maybe they didn't come out great, but it is a bookmarking tool that prompts you to, when you do have time later in the day or in the week to do the record keeping, you would just pull up those photos and say, all right, Kelly was working with the red rods, because I see it right there. There she is. So that's a nice little pro tip as well. So yeah, absolutely. Using the speech to text, I believe was the question. You would just need to use a mobile device, and yes.
Great. Looks like I missed it. There was a follow-up question about the state standards that, that question was stemming from getting information for Montessori charter schools that have to follow the state standards. I'm not sure if that changes anything in your answer, but that's where it was stemming
Yeah,
from.
so for the charter schools and some of the public schools in the U.S., I mean, yeah, we have access to the mapping of the Montessori scope and sequence with the U.S. Common Core state standards. So that's in language arts and mathematics. So if you need more information about that, just reach out to us and we can try to point you in the right direction.
Right, and it looks like last one I have here is to say it would be nice if there were examples for the record keeping, examples of progress reports with narratives. Not sure if that's if that's possible or if it's in general, hey,
Sure.
I would love to
That
see that.
that'll all be possible. The progress reports. We just launched the new version of Montessori Compass about 2 weeks ago to the wide public. It's still sort of in early access. And by early access, it works. It works beautifully in terms of record keeping and communication and the core features. The one big missing feature right now is actually the larger progress report, and that's something that we're very carefully spending time developing. That will definitely be well in advance of the new school year, probably within the next couple of weeks. But that's not available for us to demo for you right at this moment. But it's meant right now and see what you think, give us some feedback. And then, yeah, the progress report will be available in a couple of weeks.
All right. Well, I don't see any other questions. I thought those were great. So we'll start to wrap up here, and I'll just say again, Cheryl, Kelly, Rob, thanks so much for being on here today. Again, Cheryl, thanks for joining us and providing us with the amazing content in regard to observation and sharing your experience. And again, for everybody that's on here, keep an eye on your email. Every Thursday, we're going to be having these webinars, so we're going to be sending invitations each week. We've got some really great sessions coming up on, again, summer camps, how to maximize admissions at your school through your summer camp, how to build perfect school newsletters, how to do your advertising. So we've got a lot of stuff on the docket here for you. So I hope to continue to have you on here. Rob, Cheryl, Kelly, any final words before we sign off?
Thank
Just
you.
thank you for the opportunity to be able to speak with everybody, and Cheryl, for taking the time today, and your years of expertise is just so valuable to hear that firsthand. And I hope we have a chance to follow up very soon. I'd love to get some of your ideas here into our software in a more concrete way, and so we can share this with the Montessori community. I think it'd be fabulous.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I would love that. And thank you. It was great to be here.
Great.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Visit MontessoriCompass.com. There you can check out Montessori Compass 2.0. You can do a trial. You can check out the full growth suite, which also has the modules related to admissions and marketing and advertising and billing. And again, you could do a trial, you can demo, and there's a lot of great resources there for you. So thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of the week and hope to see you next Thursday.
Thank
Take
you.
care. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.